Thank you very much for attending here all the webinars of Impulse for Women. And today that is super interesting for us to have you and to let us know how a startup could arrive to be an AP, well, could arrive to an APO, and what do they need to know to arrive to an APO. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, and I'm very happy to join this great meeting, and also to have a quite frequently dialogue with you guys. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I just want to tell you that it's going to be recorded, and we will publish it to the YouTube channel of Impulse for Women.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So yes, my name is Niclas Holmberg. So I work for Nasdaq, and I'm responsible for the company listed on the Nasdaq in Sweden, on a regulated market, and on Nasdaq First North, our growth market. And for everyone that don't know that much about Nasdaq, we are famous because we run the stock exchanges in the US, in the Nordic and Baltics. But we are actually a fintech company. So if you invest in a Nasdaq share, actually listed on Nasdaq in the US, you will invest in much more than just the stock exchange that we run ourselves. We actually support 130 exchanges all around the world. And we also have a lot of technology service related for our listed company and of course investors. And I'm here a little bit to talk about what to consider and what to think about if you might go for an early IPO. But first, I would just put this extremely special situation that we have right now for the first half year in terms of IPO globally. So looking into the US market, it has been almost 540 IPOs. So we have never seen anything like that before. And we are very happy from the Nasdaq side that we have a hit rate of around 70% of the IPOs. And as many of you probably know, Nasdaq was, we are famous to be kind of the tech and entrepreneur-friendly stock exchange with companies like Amazon, Google, Tesla, Starbucks, and so on. So we have a very famous brand that we are very proud of. And we also recently moved company like Pepsi, Cola, Honeywell, and so on. So it's hard competition in the US, and that is a little bit of different compared to the Nordic areas where we do have other stock exchanges in the Nordics and in Sweden, but for sure Nasdaq is the dominant stock exchange and also in terms of number of IPOs and size. So looking into right now, we have listed around more than 100 companies in the Nordics and 80 companies in Stockholm, Sweden. And this morning, together with my colleague, we welcomed 4 new companies this morning. And tomorrow we have 6 companies. So we didn't know what to do. So we're actually going to host a digital event for all the 6 companies together. And I guess that you are not that familiar with Sweden and our ecosystem over here up in the north, where you see ice bears and everyone are, Nordic Vikings and so on. But we have an extremely strong equity culture in Stockholm, and we have been also happy to have companies like Spotify, I guess everyone knows about them, Klarna, iSettle, Skype. So we have a tradition to have good companies that thinking global for day one. because we are a small country, just around 10 million citizens, the startup companies think global from day one. And also the fact that it's quite easy to have access to all the founders of the larger companies. So you can learn from them in terms of mistakes, but also hear about the success story. And I must say that our founders have been extremely friendly and always take the time to talk to entrepreneurs and give advice. So that is one reason. You need to have great entrepreneurs, brave, smart entrepreneurs. And I'm very happy to say that I see more and more female founders in the scale-up world. And I go all the time and meet different kind of startup hubs. I was there yesterday talking to a lot of companies. So I'm very happy to see that. With that said, the public market in terms of female founders and female CEOs, I think that's still a lot we can do. So with that, I think that we were very happy, all of us, I guess, including you, to have Whitney Wolfe Herd that listed Bumble with a $7.7 billion US dollar market cap, raising $2.2 billion US dollar. So I really hope that she will give the inspiration to other female founders. And I must say that last week we rang the bell with a female founder, female CEO rang the Nasdaq bell, and I have never seen so much in social media. That was fantastic, and for sure the whole community would want to highlight that to inspire more women to not just be founder, but also try to evaluate the public market as a way of growth. So again, I mentioned that we list so many companies, and around 70% of the 100 companies that we list on in Nasdaq Nordics have been on our growth market, Nasdaq First North. So go a little bit back in time. We started a Nasdaq First North back in 2008, and since that we have grown that market. We have almost 500 companies listed with us, and the reason for the companies to choose the public market is not just about raising capital. It's not just about having liquidity in the share or exit platform. It's also related to the visibility and also the credibility that comes with the listing. So why do you want to go to the public market in early stage? I would just give one example. In November, it was actually in March 2016, I met a medtech company called Cellink. The whole management team was between 26 and 28 years old. They believed that their product was very suitable for the US market. So they had a global strategy from the beginning, and they were very attractive, so they could easily raise capital in the private world with private investors. But they understand that they were young, they were not that many in the company at that time, and they wanted to add the credibility and visibility that comes with the Nasdaq listing. So when they're targeting the larger company, the larger universe in the US, they could say, okay, we are a young team. We was just founded a few years ago, but look at us. We are a transparent company. We have all check in the books. We have gone through Nasdaq rule book and the governments that you have there. And if you give us order, we can easily go back to the market and raise capital for that growth. They also believed that it was a potential, a lot of companies out there in Europe that they believe could be interesting for them to acquire. So later on in November 2016, they rang the bell with me with a pre-money valuation of 12 million euro, raising 3 million euro. And I would say that that is not even close to be possible to list your company in French, in Spain, in Germany with a pre-money valuation of 12 million euro, raising 3 million euro. What had happened since November 2016? They have gone back to the market 9 times, asked for more money. And the market have always been supportive. They have delivered on the expectation. They have also raised money to several of acquisition, and they are today a 2 billion euro company. So again, they have gone from 12 million euro company to 2 billion euro company and use the power of the stock exchange. So that is, of course, not the average story on the company listed on our First North market, but it's a good example where they have a clear strategy why they wanted to go public instead of going through VC or other type of capital raise. And now we have a lot of discussion with ESG-friendly companies. It could, for example, be clean tech companies where the founding within the company have typically been from different kind of Swedish government program, from European program like EIC, EIT, and now actually their products, the end buyer of their products are typically government-owned companies or cities. So they believe that go public with Nasdaq, it makes it easier for the end customers to make orders with them, to go, do partnership with them. So looking into the Nordic area, I would say that a typical SaaS company with a fantastic B2C product, the capital is, so much capital in the VC world. But in some sectors, especially clean tech and healthcare, the money is not even close to enough to meet the demand from the companies. So there where the public market like us really play an important role. So we will also, we were talking, Taran, you and me, and said, okay, what will be the, the success factors of invest in to go public in early stage? I think that the most important thing is that you need to have a great IPO story. So if you compare, you have probably, you as founders have, talked to VCs or family office, and there you from time to time speak to an expert within the VC company that know exactly what you are doing, can ask very, very, very deep knowledge questions, and they will understand all your answers and, get deep into them and try to understand if you are the right company for them. If you do the IPO, then you will have an IPO story that you should talk to maybe 5,000 new investors. And today I rang the bell with the company. They have 25,000 new shareholders today. And they were also listing on Nasdaq First North. So you need to find a language, you need to find a way of communicate to not just the corner investors or the specialized like a portfolio manager, institutional capital, but also to retail investors. And you also need to figure out if you can talk about growth. Because if I'm an investor as a private person in an early stage company and I'm prepared to take that risk, of course, I want to have something on the other hand, and that is potential. So I would say if you have a company, just a Spanish company, just look into the Spanish market, or Austrian company look into the Austrian market, is not that successful in terms of a listing, at least on First North in the Nordics. Then you need to have a global approach. And you also need to, if you can, to find a Nordic angle. And what is a Nordic angle? That could be that you have in a pre-IPO round, have a Swedish investor. It could be that you as a company find business in the Nordic. So you will, and even better if you have a famous Nordic company that you do business with. So that will strengthen the case. And also the fact that you probably need to have a Nordic board member. Someone with good knowledge that could say that, okay, this company is from Spain. I have looked into that. This is my knowledge base. I know that they have a fantastic service or product, and this could really fly. So I put my name on this company, but by be part of the board. So all of that, what I'm talking about right now, have nothing to do with the Nasdaq rules. You can come with a Spanish company or Portuguese company with just Portuguese citizen in the board members and the management team, list your Portuguese entity on First North, and we are very, very fine with that. But in terms of getting interest and do it successfully, talking to the financial advisors and their investor network, you would probably need to work on this Nordic angle. So that's a key thing.
Niclas,
yes.
Just one question.
Yes, please.
If I'm a startup and I want to go to Nasdaq, what do I need, like a user experience? What do I need to have in order to call your door?
So actually, if we're talking about the US market, that's completely different. Then you apply to SEC. But if you're talking to not just Nasdaq, actually all the European stock exchanges, that is called MTF, multi-trading platform. It's actually an unregulated market where it's not easy to go public, but it's less heavy. So the barrier into the stock market is not that hard compared to the regulated market. So that means that a smaller team, more cost effective, can go public. And so Nasdaq First North, Euronext Growth, AIM in London, they more or less have the same rules to follow, and that is set by a European Commission. So you don't need to have experience either in the management team or as board members, but you need to be the board members should not be 50% of the board members should not be working within the company. At least one board member should not have equity more than 10%. But the most important thing is that you, now when you become a public company, you need to put in place an information policy and a strategy how you communicate to the market. That's the important thing. Typically for a growth company, that will be the CEO that do this communication to the stock market. And that means that you, for example, you make a contract with a large buyer of your service. You need to understand when and how you communicate to the market. And on First North, we have the same set up like AIM in London. So they call it Nomad. In Sweden, it's called certified advisors. That means that you have an advisor firm that will help you with not just going public, but you help you in your everyday work with communication to the market. And you are kind of a filter between the companies and the stock exchange. So with that said, MTF have a little bit of different kind of reputation in different countries. We are very happy that we have really good reputation. So we have 10 billion euro company listed with us on our growth market. They are very fat and happy there. But we also have 5 million euro company in market cap that list with us. A typical listing process will take from the startup where you meet me and the issue surveillance team. They are the one that is China's wall. So they are the one that look into all the paperwork, your prospectus or company description, and try, to figure out if you fulfill our requirements. So after the startup meeting, you work together with them and your certified advisors, and then typically 2 to 4 months, you come and ring the bell with me. And I would say that that is the typical setup for also not just Nasdaq, also with Euronext Growth, for example. I can't hear you. You need to unmute.
Sorry, Niclas. If I am prepared to Series A, I already did it. And then I would like to go to the stock market instead of going to a Series B venture capital. Should I call you?
Yes. So again, Niclas Holmberg. I think everyone can find me on LinkedIn, but I also will send you a PowerPoint presentation to you, so you can share that one on your webpage or to everyone right to reach out to you and would like to consider could that be a road going forward for us. So you can send it directly to them yourself. But for sure, I will be happy to follow up this meeting with individual meeting. And in my role, I also work as kind of a spider. So when I get more understanding what the company is doing, in which sector, what is the market cap of the company, the valuation, how much will potentially the transaction be in terms of raising new capital and primary capital, but maybe also some of the early stage investors would like to do some kind of a exit. So that is for sure a possibility as well. And then I try to figure out who could be the most suitable financial advisors for you. And then I make an intro, and then I said, good luck. Of course, I will try to support you if you come back with questions, but in the end, you need to find the interest from the financial advisors. They are the one that should work with you and go to their investors, and what's typically happened that they will contact, you will do your pitch in front of them, they come with some feedback, you have 1-2 meetings, and then they will try this case, both in terms of valuation and other things, with some of their investors that they know will typically invest in this type of company, and then they will come back to feedback to you, and then you agreed maybe to sign on an agreement with them to go for an IPO. And then you will have an Excel document that show everything what's going to happen in your life for the upcoming 2 to 3 months. So again, don't take the time to read the Nasdaq rule book 20 times. It's more important for you to understand, is this a potential road for us or is it not? And I will also be honest to say that it's a little bit easier for a Swedish startup / scale-up company to go public when we have seen them, you know, winning different kind of competition awards. We know some of the early stage investors and so on. If you come from a non-Nordic companies, you might come a little bit further in terms of revenues, or, you know, as I talked in the beginning, to build your company with board members that you know strength the case. So last year we listed companies from UK, Germany, Switzerland, and 10-15% of our pipeline right now is non-Nordic.
Okay, so let's gonna make a real case. I'm a startup from health. We just have to say that from 4,000 startups that we have already in our platform, 40% are from health. So I'm a 12 million pre-money valuation. I already had my Series A, and I'm in a health company. And then should I make another round, or should I knock your door first?
No, in the end, I think it goes back to the IPO story. I would say that you probably, in order, if you're not a company, it's, you know, probably double the legal work will be a little bit more expensive in terms of due diligence in different countries, a little bit of tax questions that need to be solved and things like that. So I think that you probably need to raise 10 million euro and above to you, because you don't want the total cost of your transaction to be too high. That doesn't look right to the investor, and that's not good for you as a company in terms of your reputation. Then everyone would ask, okay, this company just want to do an exit, and they don't look into the interest of the existing and new shareholders. So it's starting from 10 million euro and up, I would say.
Okay. Do you think that venture capital could be your competition? Or
which one?
The venture capital could be your competition, or they're super happy to have Nasdaq behind?
No, I think that's first. If I'm an entrepreneur, I would be so happy to see that there are different kind of ways of finance my growth. So if I lost some case to VC, I can live with that every day. I think that's more interesting for you as a company to figure out, do I prefer to have VC money, or do I see other values? In the beginning, I'm talking about raising capital quite fast. I know a company that raised 50 million euros in 2 hours on the public market. So you can do it very easily and fast if you have delivered on the expectation. The VC world could be time to time better and more suitable for a company than the public market for sure, because on the public market you always exposure to investors to put the sell button on the shares. So that means that if you believe, you know your company best. You probably know that how predictable or how unpredictable your business is going to be in terms of revenues. And if you go public with a very unpredictable in terms of revenues, you need to build your shareholder book with long-term investors that you know hold your back when you are late with a product or you didn't deliver on the expectation. That will always happen from time to time. So then you could call some of your corner investors and said, okay, sorry, but next within 2 months we're actually going to reach that goal. So even if you have 5,000 investors, there were probably 4 or 5 huge ones, and they are the one that you need to be in control of. And also one question that I get quite often is, okay, but it must be much more freedom to have 3 VC instead of 4,000 or 5,000 different shareholders. And I have so many companies to say that's easier to handle for 5,000 shareholders and rather than have 3 VCs, because the VC funds can have different kind of structure. Some fund might have 2 years left. Some fund might have 4 years left. And if you then want to do some kind of acquisition or things like that, life is not always simple, and it's not always like the VCs have the same opinion what's best for you in the short run and the long run. But with that said, many of my friends run VC companies, and we all believe that the mix between Nasdaq First North, VC, business angels, family office, that is what make our market unique. It's better to have all of them there competing to deliver the best service to you as a company. And also there are so many companies that needs money. So in the end, the more the merrier.
Okay. I do have another question. If I do have my own VCs, I'm a serious early stage, venture capital, and I'm more or less, I do have an order as an entrepreneur, who do I have to talk to? But if I'm going to Nasdaq and there are coming 5,000 shareholders, how do I organize all these people working and leading with you? Who is gonna take care about these stakeholders?
Yes, in the end, you as depending on your position within the company, is probably the CEO and CFO that will handle the communication to the stock market. So you need to find a strategy how to communicate to the market. For Nasdaq First North, you don't need to have a quarterly report. With that said, all the financial advisors will say, of course, you should communicate your quarterly report. That is one really good point where you can communicate not just the result, but also important thing happens within the company and also the strategy moving forward. So again, that's different between VC, where you communicate you report to maybe 3 different shareholders and you talk to them. But for sure, they will ask you a lot of questions as well. In the public world, you need to find a way of communicate and find a language so you can talk also to the smaller private investors. But today, I would say with all the unique techniques that digital, we're sitting here today, is no reason why you can say, no, okay, we can't communicate to the market. For sure, you can use so many different kind of technical platforms. And Also important to know that 60% of the company listed on First North, they are not profitable yet. They have revenues, but are not profitable. So the shareholders want you to invest in growth. They are 100% supporting you. They don't want you to have the, you know, if you're a smaller company, to have dividends or things like that. They want you to, you know, put the revenues into R&D or open up a new sales office in India or whatever that could be. So that is completely fine. And the investors know about growth. 15% of the company on First North, they don't have any revenue at all. And that could typically be in the biotech company raising 10 million euros to do a phase 2 study in the US, for example, or phase 1 study. So, of course, for me, that meet all this company, have this starting up meeting for me to understand if this company gonna fly or that company gonna fly, it's so hard. And that goes back to board members. If I see a board member that have worked in different kind of, could be biotech company or life science company, he has a success story to do a lot of good business within that sector, that will probably help a lot. Okay. He jumped in as a chairman of that company. Oh, that's interesting. But in my role, I'm not allowed to invest in an IPO anyway. But I think that you have a lot of investors that think in that sense. But again, it's you as a company that put the strategy, try to have people within the board with the public market that have that experience, so you can discuss with them about good advices, and they will for sure help you what they believe is the best way of communicate to 5,000 shareholders.
I do have 2 questions now. One, if I'm in Europe, I'm a startup European, and I get in touch with you, do I have access to the North American stock market through you as a Nasdaq?
No, not at all. But I will come with a but later. Actually, if you prepare a listing in the US, you actually do an application to the SEC, the government-owned entity, and they are the one that evaluate and looking to all the paperwork. And for sure, you have different advisors that work with you. And again, we typically say that, except if you're a biotech company, you can come with a smaller market cap, but we're talking around $1 billion in market cap to list in the US. We have seen some smaller IPOs there, but it's quite expensive to go public there. In the Nordics, if you do a prospectus, it's FSA in Sweden that make that judgment, but also Nasdaq. So we do it from our side, they do it from their side, and then we get the approval to list with us. So it's not connected to the US market at all. With that said, if you go public, for example, with us, Nasdaq Stockholm, and then you grow, you deliver on the expectation, and you start traveling to the US, and you feel that you have a lot of interest from US investor, and they said, oh, maybe, why don't you list in the US? We will be happy to support you. We will talk to our US colleague. We will help you with intros to advisors, to Citibank, Goldman Sachs, whatever that could be, with law firms, and we would try to support you in any way we can so you have a good start. So we see in a couple of companies that have done that road, and are talking to several companies right now that have grown, find interest from US investor, and now they plan to do a listing in the US.
Mm-hmm. And the other question will be, which type of regulation do you need from the startups to be part of the Nasdaq in the European market?
We of course have our rules and regulation, but I would say the most of it goes back to what I talk about, communication to the market. That is, I would say, the most different. That will be a new word for you compared to the private market. So the information policy is important. We also have something that all companies listed in Europe need to work around, and they don't like it, called MAR, Market Abuse Regulation. And it also goes back to how you communicate to the market, how as you as an investor or founder, regulation, what you're allowed to do or not. That could be a little bit heavy. And I'm not sure that EU, when they put together this kind of framework, realized that it was quite a heavy burden for all early stage company in Europe to follow MAR in the way that is today. And that is something that we from Nasdaq, probably Euronext as well, try to talk to the decision maker to see that, was this really this we wanted to happen? We're talking about that we want to stimulate growth, and now we have a MAR regulation that is quite heavy, and does it actually get the result that we want? So MAR and information policy, I would say information took it to the public market is the largest difference. I can't hear you.
What will be the minimum pre-money valuation of a startup to get an option to knock your door as Nasdaq?
I think I have 1 to 2 meetings every day, quite often with a very early stage company. And so far, I have never turned down any meetings. And for sure, if I can help and support, especially female entrepreneurs, I would never turn down a meeting. We listed a company quite recently with a market cap of 4 billion euro, raising I think it was 2 million euro, and we don't have any problem with that. Again, as I mentioned, to be a non-Nordic company, that will probably cost you a little bit more. So depending on the transaction and the cost, you need to come a little bit further. And I know also that some advisors will say that you probably need to have a market cap around maybe 30, 40 million euro, raising 10 million euro for us start working with the company. In terms of IPO, what they can do is, of course, help you with a pre-IPO round, because they love the company, they think the solution is amazing, but they believe that you're a little bit too early for the public market, especially if you're not a Swedish one. So they do a pre-IPO round, and then they set up a strategy that you will ring the bell with me within 12 to 24 months. We have seen that very much within both healthcare and the clean tech sectors.
Super. I do have another question.
Please, go ahead.
I'm going to squeeze you.
Shoot.
How the SPACs found, did they affect to you, or it's something that is going to help you in your market?
You mean SPACs?
Yes.
Yes. What we have seen in the US market is, it was so crazy. We never seen so many. It was almost the first quarter more listed SPACs than the whole last year, and they raised a lot of money. What we have seen a little bit after that, it have been a question: do all these SPACs, would they find a target company to acquire? So I would say that the market for SPAC goes down a little bit on the global basis. In the Nordic, we launched our own SPAC regulation to list with us in Nasdaq Stockholm. on the regulated market in the 1st of February. We have listed a couple of SPACs so far. So it's going to be interesting to see what's happening in the summer, if the appetite for SPACs are still good, or if the market investors will a little bit wait and see how successful these SPACs are in terms of finding the right company for acquisition. And it's also one different between the US market and the Nordic market. One reason for private company to want to be acquired by a SPAC in the US is that it's a little bit like an easier way of coming to the market, cost effective, take down a little bit about all the administration work and so on. In Stockholm, where we have that Nasdaq First North, is not, you can go to the public market cost effective in a fast way. So you don't really have that reason. So it's more for when I talk to different companies that are interesting or maybe be acquired by SPAC, is it because they want to know who's going to be the owner in my company, and they know that these people behind the SPAC have a long history of success within my sector. They have a global network, so they really believe that the management will help them in terms of board members, in terms of larger stakeholders within the company. So that would typically be the reason for the Nordic SPAC, that the people behind the SPAC have an extremely good reputation and a success story to tell.
So at that point, the SPAC is going to be, team will be an add value for you as from the Nasdaq point. Yeah,
related to the valuation of the companies and so on, we try to stay away from that. But it's important that the SPAC itself is listed on our regulated market, and they can just do one acquisition. So you can't have 4 companies. It's one acquisition for one SPAC. And then that company need to, have a normal listing process, either at Nasdaq First North and the regulated market. So that is how it works in Stockholm. And they have raised, the SPAC so far have raised around between 70 million euro and 300-400 million euro.
So the SPACs market starts to be a huge mass that from Nasdaq you are gonna look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, again, we have already listed. I rang the bell with the SPAC just a few days ago. We see a lot of SPAC that have been listed also, some of them in Amsterdam, for an example. But in the end, I think the success of SPACs, we will know that when we see how successful they are in terms of finding the best companies. And of course, in Nordic, we will for sure know the company that they acquire, but that could, of course, also be a non-Nordic company that they acquire. But the one that I have talked to, they say that with 90%, the target company will be a Nordic company. And then they try different kind of, some of them are a little bit more open and said it could be a growth company within, and then they mention 5 different sectors. Another one would say this will typically be a financial service company or a consumer tech company, where that could be. So differ a little bit between how wide they are in terms of talking about the profile of the company that they will acquire.
Super. So just to wrap up, doesn't matter which allocation do I am from, in order that I'm from the European countries, I do need to have a pre-money valuation of 10 million euros. And as you said previously, we need to have revenues as well.
You don't need to have revenues. You can, no, you need to prove to Nasdaq, to have issue surveillance team, that you can run the business for 12 months. So that means that many of the company, they raise capital through an IPO in order to have money on the bank account to match the strategy in terms of cost, in terms of spending for the upcoming 12 months. So if you are not profitable right now, you send in some kind of a Excel file where you actually say that this is the upcoming cost for 12 months, and now we raise 10 million euro, and that will cover the company's cost for 15 months or whatever that could be, and then you have a positive scenario and worst case scenario. And again, as I mentioned, a biotech company, they don't have, quite often don't have any revenue at all. They raise the capital to do a phase 2 study in the US.
So which advice will you give to our entrepreneurs from the Nasdaq point?
Work on your pitch. My English is not perfect for sure, but if you're going to talk in front of investors, if you are a founder and want to be a CEO, practice, 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 because otherwise the financial advisor will probably say that we love your company, we love the products, and we believe this could be a fantastic story, but we also believe that you should be the head of R&D. And some founders will say, I totally agree, we need some other personality to become a CEO in the public market. And someone called me, Niclas, they told me to be head of R&D. What? Come on, this is my company. I work day and night eating noodles, and now I should step down. So practice, practice, practice a lot on your pitch. Work on your IPO story. We have a listing guide that you can read in 2 hours, and that will cover actually everything that you need. Then try to figure out, talking to advisor, if this is a way going forward. It's just waste of time if you know everything about rules and regulation, and all the advisors said, you are too early. You need to come further.
If you're too early, you could try to go again.
Yes, and sometimes that feedback is so great, because then you know that, okay, if I consider to go to the public market, I need to, it could, for example, be that you have some good clients in your own country, but you said you have a global story to tell. Some advisor would say, okay, you're successful in your country, maybe related to your, you have a good network, or that this product is very suitable for your country. But we want you to, go from just be selling your service in Spain, but also do what you told us, enter some business in US or in Germany and so on. When you have proven that your business model works outside your country, then we will be happy to do an IPO with you. That is some comments that I quite often hear.
Thank you very much, Niclas. It was super amazing, your speech, and to show the entrepreneurs how to get into the Nasdaq in Europe. And for sure, we will give you your details and your contact.
Yes, and I'm really looking forward to work with you. And when this COVID situation is over, I will be happy to come and visit you. And I'm actually on an event in Marbella in September. So I might go and have a few days in Spain, or if any of you come to Stockholm, please reach out to me. I'm a quite good tourist guide as well. So when I hold different kind of event, my colleagues said, Niclas, it's stupid. You are not a tourist guide, but I love that work. So I will be happy to walk you around our old city and show my beautiful city, Stockholm, and our town hall where the Nobel Prize ceremony is held, for example.
That would be amazing to be hosted from you, and also with Nasdaq behind as well.
Yes. Thank you. And to all brave entrepreneurs, you're amazing. I would not have any job without you. So keep going, and I will be happy to support you in any way I can.